Hey everyone, I'm Jen from Connect Path Forward, and I'm here today talking with Rachel Doucette from the Yoga Space, a fairly new yoga studio here in Chadds Ford. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, what she's up to, and we're going to talk about how the Yoga Space is contributing to building community in Chadds Ford. So Rachel, why don't you start, give us a little background, and tell us how you ended up starting the Yoga Space.
So I am a local here in Chadds Ford. I've been here about 10 years. Not originally from here. I grew up in New York, ended up at the University of Delaware, met my husband there, and we ended up here in Chadds Ford ultimately with our two boys that go to Hillendale. And we love it. We absolutely love it here. It's definitely home for us. I was a former teacher. I taught fourth grade for quite some time up until having my oldest, who's 11 now. I've been doing yoga, practicing yoga for about 20 years at least. I was certified 13 years ago. And since then, I was, again, working as a teacher. I was teaching a lot of yoga on the side. I worked at CrossFit facilities, yoga studios, taught a lot of yoga for teachers after school. And ultimately, my favorite was I had a small studio that I ran out of my house for quite some time until we moved here. And it was great. So in the meantime, I stayed home with my kids for 9 years. And that time went really fast. But once both boys went back to school, I started spinning my wheels a bit about what that next chapter was going to look like for myself and how that journey was going to go. So I spent about 2 years really thinking, journaling, coming up with lots of different ideas that I won't bore you with. But I've had some interesting ones, but everything sort of led to doing something on my own, which I ultimately realized. I was subbing at the kids' schools, which was awesome. I was trying to figure out, can I make teaching and yoga work at the same time? And I sort of kept hitting these roadblocks. And about last year, around November, I kind of decided to just stop for a minute and stop thinking about it. And of course, right when you stop thinking about it is usually when things happen.
Sure, yeah.
So I sort of stopped thinking, and then I went to acupuncture upstairs in the building. It's a good friend of mine. I came out and I saw the lease sign, and I just kind of had a what if thought. And I went home that night, talked to my husband Jeremy, and he said, just call. What's the harm in
Yeah.
calling? So I called on December 28th. Walked into the building and just like that, like saw everything. I was like, yes, that's it. And I would stalk the property. I would drive by, I'd come in, I'd peer in the window. And one day when I peered in the window, a realtor was coming in with somebody else to look at the space, and my heart plummeted. And right then I knew. I was like, you know what? Even if this completely bombs, I cannot walk away without trying. So that was that in that very moment, I knew it was happening and I would regret it if I didn't try. So that was that. Here we are.
I think you answered that question, right? So how did you end up starting the yoga studio?
Yeah.
I love that you say, I'm looking at teaching, I'm looking at yoga, I'm trying to figure out, how to make this work. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I'm actually doing teaching and yoga at the same time.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it was,
Yeah.
the yoga space. I realized I just needed space.
Yeah.
I kept trying to figure out, how do I make it work? How do I make it work? And thinking about everybody else's schedule, and then realize, you know what, if I just get the space, figure it out and
Yeah.
go from
Yeah.
there.
It'll
So
work itself out.
it did. And it happened really organically, which is nice.
Yeah, that's
So
really awesome.
yeah.
I
And
know, so one thing that you and I have kind of talked about, there are some preconceived notions about yoga that aren't entirely true. So tell us a little bit more about how you view yoga and like what happens at your studio differently than some might expect about yoga on a first impression.
yeah, so the two biggest are, I can't touch my toes and I'm really bad at yoga. And fair, not many of us can touch our toes. And as far as yoga goes, if you show up, there's really no good yoga and bad yoga. But it's really simple. It's like, it's showing up, dropping your expectations, and breathing. And those are the three biggest things that I say when you walk in the door, because there's really no good or bad. It's just showing up, and you might not ever touch your toes, and that's okay. You'll probably get a little bit closer, but you never really need to get there, and that's totally fine. It's really not the goal. I think a lot of people think about yoga and they're just, oh, it's stretchy, it's bendy, all kinds of crazy moves. If you see it on Instagram and Facebook, it looks a certain way, and it can be intimidating, but
Sure.
it's really not. There are lots of different ways you can practice. All the classes, they're all levels. So when you come in, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced, we figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. I know something else we've kind of talked about a little bit is the lack of judgment. And I think we live in a world where there's a lot of comparing ourselves to other people and thinking about where do we fit in. You know, everything from, am I the best mom? Am I doing a good enough job, to like, am I wearing the right clothes? Am I doing enough? So, you know, can you share a little bit about your thoughts on how yoga maybe helps people embrace and reflect on sort of letting go of that judgment?
100%. Yes. So as far as yoga goes, when you walk in the door, it is a judgment-free zone. And I think a lot of the clients that come here can attest to that. It's very lighthearted. You know, I think we think of yoga and we have to be very serious and quiet. But it's not like that here. We definitely have our moments of stillness and quiet, and embrace that. But we also have moments of laughing and joking around. It's meant to be fun as well. So
I think I can attest to, like, so for those of you guys who don't know, I am a client. I go to the yoga space. And when I definitely go in the studio, like, nobody's worrying about what I'm doing. They're, you know, everyone's sort of focused on themselves enough that they're not looking around to say, like, is that person good enough at yoga? Should they be here? They're really like, are my legs looking okay? You know, like no one's really
it's
worrying
true.
about
So I would say, like, just bring your awareness within your mat, your body, because that's ultimately why we're there. It's to check in with yourself, your body, and start to understand your body, your movements. You know, during a practice, during class, you know, we might be in a pose and it looks completely different for everybody. Somebody might be touching the ground, somebody might be on a block, somebody might be on the wall. And ultimately the goal is that, for me, that every client in here knows their body and knows how to move to accommodate and work the best that they can with their own body.
Yeah. So I know you guys have a lot of different offerings at the studio, unique classes, different types of events. Can you dive into, just pick like one or two that are your favorite and tell us, you know, why do you love them, and you know, what brings people into, what makes them special for people that brings them into the studio to participate in those classes or those events?
It's so hard.
It's
It's so hard to pick one. So the regular classes are vinyasa, heated, non-heated. There's a gentle yoga, which is a really good way to ease in. There's a Vin to Yin class, but for the most part, it's like the vinyasa style. So on top of that, a really big part is these wellness Fridays, right? So on a Friday evening, coming out, I usually try to do 1 to 2 a month at least, where you can come out. Maybe you can't practice all the time, but on a Friday evening, taking the time to come out, do something for yourself, wellness based. I'd have to say my favorite wellness Friday would be the yoga acupuncture.
Okay.
It's a really nice event. It's a good friend of mine as well. She's upstairs, Helena. We do an hour of yoga, and then you get really comfortable in Shavasana, and she comes around with the acupuncture needles, and it's such a good, it's like, I call like a hard reset. So when you come in here for a class, we reset, right? We check in, we move, we breathe, we leave here feeling a little bit more cleared, some more clarity, grounded, focused. I'd say that event is a hard reset where you really leave feeling like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm ready.
One thing I haven't tried yet, but is like super interesting to me that I need to get to at some point. It sounds very intriguing. Are these sound baths? Like,
Yes.
can you explain this to me? Because so far what you've told me, I feel like I just lay down and rest for an hour, which is something that, most of us never take the time to do. So I want to hear about that.
Yes. So that's exactly what you do. It is one of the events. There's a few events, the guided meditations, the sound bath, where there's really no movement involved as far as like the asana, like the physical practice. So the sound bath, a girl named Julissa has been doing them. She's awesome. She comes in and has this beautiful altar of all her, if you've been to the studio, I have a couple sound bowls, but hers put mine to shame. She's got a whole array of sound bowls, a rain stick, a drum. It's beautiful. And we sort of start, she sets intentions, and we just kind of get settled, get comfortable, blankets, bolsters, blocks, and you lay down, and she plays for about an hour, and you really just drift off it into wherever. And kind of keep coming back to the sounds, awareness, noticing how they resonate within your body, focusing on just breathing and relaxing. Some people fall asleep in and out. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's just
That's awesome.
really, you're right. We don't take enough time for ourselves to really recharge. There's lots of things we do to recharge. That might give us like the short-term energy, a cup of coffee, which is great. I love my coffee, but that long-term sustainability really comes from those deep resets, whether it's a 3-minute meditation, a minute, an hour here and there, a regular yoga practice, however it is for you that you can really disconnect from all the distractions.
Sure.
And check in with yourself and chill.
Yeah.
Which we don't do enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Has anything along this journey, I mean, you've been doing this for almost a year. Has anything along this journey been like especially surprising, heartwarming, meaningful? Like what's maybe something that has stood out to you?
I'd say in the beginning, really the amount of support that came from friends and family. I mean, immediately, as soon as I started, I officially knew it was happening and began talking about it. I just had so many friends and people come out and help paint at 7 o'clock at night when I knew they were tired, and they, came out to help out. People that just helped with the process itself along the way without even asking. It was more of I can do this, or, it was kind of that takes a village.
Yeah.
It was really heartwarming. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And honestly, this space wouldn't exist without that support.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to tell everyone? Anything we missed that you want to make sure people know about? And then lastly, you can tell everyone, where you're located and how they can find you, and how they can show up on the mat in your studio.
Yes. So definitely follow along on social media. That's where a lot of the events are posted. The website, for sure. Everything's always on the website.
What's your website?
The yoga space chadsford.com. So definitely go on there, follow along. There's lots of events coming up. So part of that community aspect, I'm involved with the Healthy Kids Running Series. A mom reached out, a local mom, about a fundraiser for her son's baseball team. So we're doing a goat yoga at her farm. Definitely out of my element, but it was something new and different, and to support a local community member. That's kind of what it's been all about. So definitely check it out. Call me, literally just call me and say, I've gotten phone calls. I used to do yoga. I'm nervous to come back, or I've never done it. And come in, we figure it out. We see what the best fit is, and make things happen. I think being proactive about our health, we don't just focus on the flexibility, it's strength, it's balance, it's mobility. There's so many components to a practice that go a really long way. So if it's something you've thought about, considered, call, stop by.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So for, to sort of wrap this up, those of you guys who are watching, Rachel is building a great community at the studio. Unlike many yoga studios that I've been to, she regularly introduces attendees to each other, which I think is really interesting. It definitely is building that community that we're talking about, building friendships, understanding, who else is in the room with you. If you're interested in getting to know the studio, she's approaching her first birthday, so definitely stop by and attend a class to celebrate with her. I've been attending classes for a few months now. Also, I love that it's so freaking close to my house. Like I can run out the door and I'm there in 10 minutes. So being local is really huge. Yeah, it's been really great. So I'm so glad that you could chat for a few minutes, Rachel. And everybody else, check it out and hope to see you guys on the mat. Thanks so much.